Okay.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. Okay. Okay. Hilchos. So halacha aleph. Nachmisha also ba'adar bezin nifnei l'chafes on the 15th of Adar. Bezin occupies himself and makes himself available to do inspection. Luvdei can do more inspections. Al tzorchei tzibur for the needs of the public. About hekdeshus, anything that's related to hekdeshus. And they do all kinds of inspections and they do investigations. And they are paid to hekdesh, right? They evaluate them and they make sure the people have to be paid them or paid to them. If someone's machrim land, he's machrim it for Shemayim, which means for like a bias, as opposed to chemer kahanim. And they collect the money from the people who are ma'arich their own value or someone else's value. That's a dumb where they say, we said the person say erech yalai or dom yalai. All these cases, they call a chayav ben for anybody's chayav to pay for them. They do it at that time in order everyone should remind everybody in general to get together with basically the fact that it's together with the time when everyone's already occupied with the necessity of machzah shekel. It's a funny lashon because today is like
in order that.
Yeah, in order that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, is together with the Azay touches over here. The point is that it's simultaneous, where it's on everyone's mind. Machzah shekel, which is the mitzvah deraisa on every single person, bar none. The mela, it's a good time to make people conscious of paying up hekdesh and getting them, available for that purpose. Bates. Ain't playing this hekdesh.
Finish also.
Because that's what you have to
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Ain't paying this hekdesh. You don't you don't redeem the hekdesh. Ela b'shleisha begin. You have to have 3 people who know how to evaluate property or items. That's a chila, right? Similarly, when you take metaltalin from people, someone who's mechayiv in erech, so in order to make him pay, you can take a collateral from him. When you take you're not going to take a Ferrari for somebody who says a small amount of money. In order to make sure it's a appropriate value, you also have to have 3 people evaluating it. 3 people who know what they're talking about. Good. When you evaluate an animal or anything else, which is movable property, again, you evaluate it with after 3 people. When you are evaluating karka, or for that matter, a person says a regular case of erichin, except the only thing he has available is actual karka. So has to be dafka 10 people. One has to be a kohen zero sakosim. Should a kohen kosim with the parsha describes a kohen. Assuming someone says, my value is, I have to give my value to Beis Hamikdash, or did plani lie, or did yodi or ragli lie, all these cases, he takes the value of himself or a limb. When you evaluate how much he's worth or his foot or hand is worth, has to be 10 people. One of them is a kohen, because apparently the psukim compare a person to karka. Okay. Gimel. When the person redeems his hekdesh from hekdesh, he said this item is from this phone is hekdesh. Now I have to give the money to hekdesh to be paid to the phone. If it was land or an item, whoever wants to come and be paid it, in which case Bez takes the money now, and now the item is no longer hekdesh, and therefore the person who is paid it takes the item. So you machriz it in order to make the value go up, basically, make the bid go up. But that's when you're dafking and paid. When you're taking that mashkin, you're not machris. But when someone's actually paid, then you are machris to make the price go up. So hekdesh could benefit from it. If one guy says, now a bidding war, one guy says 10 slayim, one guy says 20, one guy says 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You have 5 people, each one outbidding the other. Now, when it comes to hekdesh, a verbal promise is the same as making a kinyan. Therefore, when the person who says, I'm going to give 50, says, you know what, I'm not interested. He's already mechuyev to give 50, but he doesn't get the whole thing because somebody else is willing to give 40, apparently. The guy who bid under him. So mashkin min nechas of Esther, you take a mashkin from his nechas in the value of 10 line, he owes 10. But then he says, you give it to the person willing to pay 40. So hekdesh takes the original 50 that they were promised. So he's not giving 50. He has to make sure that bid is kept. Each one is mechuyev to make sure the hekdesh gets the amount they committed. Right, he gets 10 from the guy who says 50, 40 from the guy who says give me 40. So hekdesh got what they were promised. Because remember, hektish, amir legavoya k'mesir lahedit. When
He doesn't want to get 50 anymore.
he changed his mind, right? Exactly. So he said once he makes a verbal commitment, that's like a kinyan. Like I owe you $50, and like a kinyan, now I owe you all pigdin, right? So by hektish, no kinyan necessary. A verbal commitment is a kinyan. Now the guy said 40, changed his mind too. Then you take 10 from him, the guy said 30. So again, hektish gets 30 and 10 and 10. That's 50. So loses nothing. So the guy even originally keeps going down. The original bidder. He sees everyone else changing their minds. He says, "Me too." Then you make a new bid and you collect. If whoever ends up being paid gives less than 10, then then you take from the guy who said 10, whatever the difference is. So if someone gives 7, he has to give 3. If now the new bid is, let's say, 20, so then in that case, the first two people, their commitment is being kept. So they're not going to do anything. It's only the guys who 30, 40, 50 have to give. So the point is,
they already gave.
I'm saying, right, but the point is that they're mechuyev to. I don't think they gave them in actuality and handed over, but they're mechuyev to give. So their chiyuv stands. The point is that once you make a commitment to hektish, we make sure hektish gets what exactly. Dalit. Bamed, when this is applied, we're assuming the chash zachas when it was in order, right? 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Avim chazu kol they all say that simultaneously we changed our minds. Everyone pays equal value. Now, our example, it's going to be 10 apiece anyway, so it comes out the math is the same. But Kate, so what happens if the math is a little different? Rishon one says, one guy says 10, Sheni, second guy says I'll give you 20. The third guy says 24. The second and third guy backtrack. Now, instead of getting 24, Hektish only gets 10 from the first guy, so it's missing 14. So you give the first guy 10, like he said. You take a collateral for 7 shloim from the second and third person.
Why 7?
7 plus 7 is 14. Yeah. Nimtzek, 10, 7 and 7 is 24.
Okay.
In this case, if all 3 of them backtrack. Nimka Hekish, the best shalish in the Hekish, find some guys who will pay 3. So Hekish got, instead of getting 24, got 3. That's 21. So again, you take 7 from each one. So you have 7 times 3 plus 3 is 24. The point is in the same way. Once you make a commitment to Hektish gets that money, and you have an obligation to pay that difference either single-handedly or collectively, depending on whether you backtrack simultaneously or one after the other. Hey, now when you come to the Beis Hamikdash, right? Or when you want to go and you want to be paid this item, let's say a piece of karka, for example, you were makdish. The owner has first rights to be paid. Because they add a chemish. So therefore, in other words, which means first of all 25%, the Hektish gets more, but also because the mitzvah is not upon them bigger. So if now I'm gives a bunch of kolum here, which he explains more specifically.
What does that mean?
You don't add Hektish on the upping the bid. Shall sharpen of the other people, as we'll see examples. You only add a 25%, a fifth on what your original bid was. We're talking about a case over here where
back to an option again.
So as opposed to halacha vav, it wasn't evaluated by a mumcha. We'll see halacha vav is different, but as opposed to what we see halacha vav, here we're not talking about a case where it was evaluated by a mumcha apparently for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but it wasn't evaluated. It was just they're being making an auction.
Right.
So if the owner says, I'm willing to pay 20 shkolim to be paid in my karka. I said, I'm willing to 20 also. The Baalim take precedence, they get to be paid it, and they get the property. Ultimately, their bid of 20 requires them to give 25. Therefore, if they're paid it, Hektish gets more. Another guy comes along and says, I'm going to get 21. I'm outbidding the guy. If the Baalim don't add anything, then they get it for 25 because that's what their bid is worth, and because the Hektish wants to get more money, as Beis Hamikdash needs, therefore they get it first. If the owner adds to the bid of 21, even 1 pruta, they're going to have to pay 26 and 1 pruta. Wow, what's the cheshbon? When they say 21 and a pruta, they have to pay that. Plus 25% of the original bid of 20. The 25% of the original bid of 20 is how much? A quarter of 20 is 5. They have to pay an extra 5 beyond their bid. Yeah, okay. What's their bid? 21 and a pruta. 21 and a pruta plus 5 is 26 and a pruta. But they don't have to pay. You don't calculate the fifth of 21 and a pruta. That would be more than 5 slightly.
Right.
You only calculate the fifth in the original bid, which was 20.
Okay.
Some guy comes along and says, Hayushli be'esim b'sham Agav 22. Abba Shiva Amas and it says be'esim b'chamesh Agav 23. Abba fourth guy says be'esim b'arba Agav 24. Abba Chamish Yom fifth guy says comes and says be'esim b'chamesh Agav 25. And they add to the bid 25 one pruta. Again, they give their new bid of 25 in a pruta, plus their original 25% of 20, which is 5. 25 and a pruta plus 5 is 30 and a pruta. 25 plus a pruta, which they're bidding. And a fifth and 5 from 25% at the mechuyev. Because like we said in the beginning of halacha, the owners don't add a fifth on the upping of the bids. It's only the fifth of the original bid that they give on top of their current bid. Their current bid in this case was 25 in the pruta. You pay 25 in the pruta. Add to that of 25% of your original bid of 20. How much is 25 of 20? 5. So therefore, you have 30 in the pruta. And all this case was this is what we're saying, that as the bid goes beyond the original bid, you don't as the bid grows, the chaimish does not grow. That's only because the karka was not evaluated by an appraiser. The karka was not evaluated for whatever reason, I'm not sure, by 3 mumchen. You couldn't find 3 experts, right? It was off season, vacation time. It was the summer. If 3 mumchen evaluated it, and they told Hektish that it's worth what the last guy who wants to give 25, that's back of the value of the property. And then when the owners came to add to the bid, they added a pruta to that. Then they have to add a fifth. They have to pay a fifth on top of their bid, on top of the last bid. Therefore, they have to pay their bid of 25 in a pruta plus 25%, which is not 30 in a pruta, but 31 and a dina in a pruta. That's 25% of 25 in a pruta, because there's 4 dinarim in a salad. Zayin. Evaluated. The hektish was not evaluated, and the bailam came in there willing to give 20. And someone else comes to decide with 25. The owners have to pay 25 anyways. It's very funny. This is the halacha that I'm the chayyim should have told us before halacha vav. But in any event, okay, or even before in middle halacha hey maybe. It says I'm going to give 26. Who created him? He proceeds. He takes precedence because the owner's only giving 25. He's going to give 26. If the owners say I'm going to give 26 and a pruta, they up the bid. And they in achas sheish and pruta commission ban. Like we said, they have to give the new bid plus a fifth of their original bid, because we're talking about a case here where it was not evaluated by hektish, as we said in the beginning of the Zayin. But this is how it goes. Okay. Nowadays, where there's no base of mikdash, is the halacha appropriate for the 3 weeks. We don't do arachim, we don't do charamim. Person says chemer shemayim, this property is chemer for the base of mikdash, but the gabayis, you don't do this because ain't sham mikdash bechateinu. The chazik is bitgai. There's no base of mikdash because of our averus in order to
spend the money on
to keep upkeep. Exactly. In hikdish and a person was makdash something based on mikdash, or he said erech yalai or this chederim. So what do you do with it? And halacha ches is talking about for whatever reason you don't want to pay it. If you want to pay it, it's a different story. We're talking about the halachayut. But over here, for some reason, padiyah is not an option. What do you do? You said behema to the animal. Now it's hektish. Can you use it? No. Can you sell it? No. What do you do with it? If it's an animal, closing the door, lock the door, let it die. You can't let it pasture apparently, because we're afraid someone's going to use it.
Right.
Then we hektish. You can't feed.
Why don't you just kill it?
You're not allowed to show hektish on purpose.
It's
hektish. You're not allowed to do that.
You don't eat it.
No, that's considered.
You destroy it.
Talach is more than.
Yeah. No, so Talach Chaim is actually according to Rambam D'Rabbanan, I think. I believe so. And it's learned now from last week's parasha. The murder of Vuchim he writes, and when the Amalek said, "Why'd you smack your donkey?" That's really now Talach Chaim, but it's a remnant though. So okay. How you pay this like Ksulas like Talim? The Rebbe put together like it's called Young Scholars Pocket Calendar.
You don't learn out Tzabal from the donkey when his load is. We had it on Hayem Yoyim.
So that's
breaking his back.
I think that the Iker limit is from. Okay, maybe that's also a marker. Good. Akapanos over there. One of the days it says this part. So you close it, you put it in a behind the door, lock it so it doesn't hunger. How you pay this if it's produce, clothing, or kalim, you put it somewhere no one's gonna touch it, some kind of vault somewhere until it rots. I'm not sure whether it's buried. It could be burying it as destroying it. I don't know. If it's money or metal which doesn't rot so easily, throw it into the Dead Sea, or in the ocean, which is salty and therefore it will decay. In order to cause it to be destroyed. Because that's any more sickle active destruction, but better that than to have someone use it accidentally. Test. Okay. If you're makdish a eved kanani, or you're machinim, and he's an eved that's already like an eved kanani, right? He's mechuyev in all mitzvahs like a woman. In addition to the issue of shaving and the issue of cutting his payas, right? Classic eved kanani. Then you would now to leave him like this, you can't because then he's a yid, he's like a shtickle yid. He's a chatzi Jew. You have an obligation to feed him, sustain him. You can't let him starve to death. You're not supposed to do that, and you can't use him either. So you can't leave him around. Someone's going to use him. So therefore, you have to redeem him and then throw the money to Yam HaMelech. Like all of the cases of Arachim will say in the next halacha that you're supposed to be paid it. The halacha ches was Padiyah is not an option for some reason. But if it's possible, by Eved Kanani, make sure you paid it. What if it's an Eved Goy? Remember, we said there's cases where you buy an Eved from a non-Jew, and you can make with a Tanai that he stays in his Goyish status to keep Sheva mitzvahs. Also, there's like a year where he gets to decide. Yeah. So in that case, there's no chiyuv to sustain him. So what do you do with him? I mean, you can't use him either because you're being well hektish. You can't do anything with him, except what if he falls down a well? Then loy ma'ali, you can't save him. You can't kill him either because you can't destroy hektish be a dying. Okay. Now, why? I'm not sure why over here you can't be. We say don't have to pay them. So apparently, I guess over here, because you're not paid the full value because then the money is you're making more things that might be more hektish. But if you pay just with one pruta, that is not lechatchila. That's a b'diavad. So rather than do a padiyah, which is a shacha padiyah, which is a b'diavad padiyah with one pruta, and rather than doing a full padiyah and creating a whole pile of money now that you're going to have to mill the hektish, better to just don't do anything with this guy and just hope that he falls down the pit, and then that's the end of him. Okay, you're more to lift days hektish is not the pruta. Now nowadays, if someone is makdish something, even though you shouldn't, lechatchila, you can be paid them even with a pruta. I'm sorry, I made a total mistake. I was looking at the wrong thing. The reason why the previous halacha, this Eved Goy, you don't do do anything with him, is because he's hektish. The reason why you don't save him is because he's Eved of the Zara. That's why. Talking about a case where he's Eved of the Zara. He's the 1 year between, not a guy who agreed to keep Shem mitzvahs. Talking about a case where it's in the year between when he's deciding whether or not he wants to be a yid or not. So he's still holding on to himself at the Zara. You give him 1 year to decide. So that's in that time frame we say that you cannot use him for anything. And if he falls down a pit, you don't pick him up because that's the challah din by Eilev Zara. Okay, you. Nowadays, if something becomes hektish, although we said you're supposed to be paid for the full value, and if you paid for one put that works, even with the Yeved that you said yesterday, Rambam. So nowadays, where it's not going to the base of anyways, even the chachil you could use one pruta. That one pruta goes to the Amelech. Even though you could, but the other one put the works. The Chum said to use 4 zuz, like Karl of Zeh, or about 4 zuz.
That's less or more.
Karl of Zeh means approximate, I guess.
No. That's less than more than a salva.
Oh, sorry. You could use even a pruta, not teira. The Chum said you should use 4 zuzim, which is a lot more because 1 zuz is 192 prutas, I think. Oh, so it's a lot more. It's 768 times. Why? Because the Fasher Dover, right? This is a significant chash of $1 coin. People should know what happened over here. There's hektish, and it should be a public issue to make people conscientious about hektish as I guess. Al Bezman Mikdash, Yipad L'Chadchil El B'Shav Mashvan Bezman Abayis. We said the Chadchil you should only be paid it for its proper value. Aleph. Misharachim Bezman Azeh Metalton Stam. Someone who says this Metalton is Hechem is Chedem, which means it's Cherem. He didn't say it's for the Shemayim but the Gabayis. He said Stam Cherem, which is for the Kahanim. You have to give it to the Kahanim in that place. If he that's metalton. But if he's machim land in Eretz Yisrael, or he specifically clarifies that it's for the kahanim.
In the Cherem, why not?
You know, either way, when he says stam chedim Eretz Yisrael, or he specifies to the kahanim, either way. So, yeah.
You know what?
So ein chedim, the din is not considered chedim.
Why not?
So ein shechram neg el zman heshav neg. The din of chedim only is relevant when you say the din of cherim karka is only relevant when you have when Yevel's neg. And Yevel's only neg when you have the majority of Am Yisrael living in Eretz Yisrael. Now, in times of that was not the case. Is it today now the case? It's machlokes. Some people say that nowadays already the majority of the world Jewish population is in Eretz Yisrael. So, yeah. Anyway, but in times of it was not. Sorry. So 1 second. So cherem tatlin is given to the kahanim. If you cherem sada, whether it's cherem stam, which is the base of Mikdash, or you specify it to the kahanim, either way, what you said is irrelevant because the din of cherem doesn't apply to Navas Manazeh since there's no yevel. Hechem kahanim karka of chutz la'aretz. I feel like that is so, but the cherem of karka out to Eretz Yisrael for kahanim, that does apply. How do you come talton be'eretz Yisrael not the kahanim? So if you say your house is cherem, you have to give it to the kahanim. Okay, good base. Now the Rambam finishes off Sefer Fla in the Chesed. Even though being makdish something and being machim and being marich is a mitzvah, there's a concept of it's a mitzvah to do so. Not a chiyuv per se, but it's a mitzvah. It's appropriate for a person to conduct themselves in the matters of hektish in order to subjugate his sahara, to make himself generous. Not to be stingy. And fulfill the Nevi'im say, honor Hashem from your wealth. Right? This is Mishlei Hashem HaMelech. So you see that the Rambam holds Hashem HaMelech was a Navi. Even nevertheless, a person never is makdish anything, or never does Arachim or V'charamim, and the kachlam, there's no problem. Promises. If you refrain to make a neder, you're not missing anything. So it's not a mitzvah that a person has to make sure to do. There's a concept that you say this is chedim to go about the process, and you're fulfilling a mitzvah when you do so. Exactly. So, technically speaking, it's a mitzvah as well, but we're not supposed to because it's going to create problems. So it's like eating the sukkah on the second day of Sukkot, or on the middle of Chol Moed. Right? There's no chiyuv to do so, but if you do so, you're doing a mitzvah. You're gimel. The person never be makdish or machrim all of his property. If someone does that, if he's violating what the pasuk suggests. So
you could do it though.
Yes, it's doable. It's not advisable. So anyway, it says from everything you have, not everything you have, from everything you have. As a chum clarified. The ain loyal chassidus is a chassidus. It's not a chassidus. It's a shtus to machrim everything you have. He loses all his money. And now he needs to beg for tzedakah. People have to sustain him. What's the kun to make someone else pay for your groceries? You pay for yourself. The aim of Rachmalov, you shouldn't have such a person because he's a chassid shaita. The chassid shaita is among those who are destroying the world, like we had in the Sefer Seita and Daf Chaf, I think. Although my memory doesn't tell us that this is not one of the examples of the Gemara over there, where it talks about someone who not going to jump into the ocean to save a woman because it's not sneers. I don't know if this being one of the examples. The Rambam apparently is considered an example. Somebody who wants to really use his money in a splurging way to do mitzvahs, don't do more than a fifth of your wealth. Do what the Nevi'im tell us, that from what the Eibusher says, you have justice. Both in the words of Torah, the matters of Torah, and the matters of the world. The person who to bring. Many times Torah says we have the person's possessions, and the carbon depends on the financial status, right? The carbon of the unit. Certainly those things, the person on the chuyev behem because he chose to make a neder, you should only give a neder or make a pledge based on what he can afford. It says each person should give according to what he can afford based on what the Eibusher has given you. And see him